ahead and get this meeting called to order. This is the January 9th, 2024 Norwood City Council meeting. If everyone can please rise for a moment of reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franson? Here. Mrs. Hoover? Here. Ms. Boland? Here. Mrs. Winnebauer? Here. Sorry. Mr. Gerton?
Here.
Mr. Braid?
Here. All members present. Next, we will move on to amendment of agenda. We have 3 items to add. We will add an community and economic development committee report from January 8th. Under the reports of standing committees, we will add a communication. This will be communication number 2, and that is from the PACE Board and Norwood Community Television Board appointment. We will also add a communication regarding Mayor's Court fines for December of 2023. Mrs. Franzen.
I make a motion we amend the agenda as stated.
Thank you. And a second? Mr. Braden, thank you. Motion by Mrs. Franzen, second by Mr. Braden to amend the agenda as stated. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franson? Yes. Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Mrs. Boland?
Yes.
Mrs. Winnebauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
And Mr. Braid?
Yes, ma'am. All members present voting yes. The motion carries. Next item is minutes of previous meetings. We have the minutes for the December 12th, 2023 meeting and the minutes for the December 26th, 2023 meeting. Mrs. Winnebauer.
Motion to receive minutes as written?
Both sets?
Yes.
Second, Mrs. Hoover.
Yes, sir. I second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Mrs. Winnebauer, second by Mrs. Hoover to accept the minutes as if read. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franson? Yes. Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland?
Yes.
Mrs. Winnebauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
Mr. Braid?
Yes, ma'am. All members present voting yes, the motion carries. We will move on to request to address council. Charlene Myers.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address council today. I am with an organization called Focus Cincinnati, which is working with Christ the Savior Church, which is here in Norwood. And our main focus is to have meals provided for the community and also to have a food pantry once a month. Our first meal was in December, and we gave out about 20 meals. Our second meal is coming up here on January 11th, and I have some flyers that I'll happily pass out if I have the opportunity. We're looking forward to having this meal. We passed out 750 flyers thanks to good friend Mary, who is the superintendent, as you well know, worked many years with me at Cincinnati Public Schools, so it's always great to have friends in high places. And we passed out those flyers to the elementary school students, so we're hoping to get more people to come to this community meeting, community meal. The meal for now is going to be to-go meals because there's construction in the church, but we are going to have meals in our parish hall starting in March. So we're looking forward to council possibly getting getting the word out or helping us get the word out. I know Ms. Hoover has helped us get the word out in the community and has connected us with some key people, so we are looking forward to that and being able to have that opportunity. So without further ado, I guess I'll pass out flyers, and if you have any questions, I'll happily answer them.
Next request to address council is Bishop Sonny James.
Good evening, awesome leaders in an awesome community. Happy New Year to each and every one of you, to all of our wonderful residents. I stand before you very, very excited because I'm about to introduce to you individuals that have committed to make such a difference. You're okay. In our community, being sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of listening to reports of children being shot at, murdered. And so we're forming a network of people to come together. And I was very fortunate to meet a young lady named Ashley who shared the same vision and with her prior background and history. And I want you all to just be patient as this initiative rolls out. And we'll come back and give more updates as it comes. But I'm very excited to stand and to partner with our new council. I'm very excited how we've been able to work together. And I'm looking forward to working together in the future. And don't worry, I know the clock is off, guys, but I've already been pre-informed. So we won't go over. Or at least they won't. Keep it up. Ashley?
I might go over, so sorry. Okay. First, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to just hear us out and just serving the community in the capacity that you do. To start, again, my name is Ashley Haynes. I'm 32. I'm a mother of 4. I have kids from 17 to 4, so I'm busy to say the least. Aside from that, I'm a member of UCPC. I've been helping to reunite families where kids have been separated due to drugs or what have you. I also been advocating for people who have gotten clean, who've been dealing with the court system in hopes to get them help and have a better chance at a new healthy life in society. I also feed the homeless in Avondale every week. And I've been an advocate for stopping the gun violence in Houston, Chicago, and Atlanta for the past 2 years. I do these things for the same reason I'm here today, to make sure people can see that we can take care of each other and make our city a better place. And also because I know where they are. I've walked in their shoes. As a child, my mother was on drugs, my dad was in prison most of my life, and my stepdad abused me, my brother, and my mother for years. We had little to no money, and I felt the need to go get us some and give my brother a better life. And that was at the age of 10. I was in my first rehab passages when I was just 11 years old. I was the youngest one there. And around that same time, I was in jail for the first time. And of course, once I was in the system, it's so hard to get out. So I went back a couple times, but I did get out. Once I got pregnant at 15, I turned my life around. And I can tell you at 15 years old, I felt like I was 80 with all the death, loss, heartache, and trauma that I had consumed. I would go on to lose so much more. Most of my friends, my family, to either violence or drugs. And I can tell you, it never leaves you. The pain or the scream from your friend's mother when she's told that her baby's dead. That scream still keeps me up at night still. And I've heard that same scream a lot of times. And I can tell you, it breaks me each time. That sound, it breaks the earthly pain, and it goes straight to God's ears. It breaks the order of life. You're not supposed to outlive your kids. But sadly, Many have, and today the number is at an all-time high. There were 58 kids shot in 2023, the highest it's been in 10 whole years. Juvenile violence is at an all-time high, a 65.7% increase in just 1 year. And I heard Scotty Johnson's plea for safe gun violence, or safe gun use, which would help, but that's not going to cut it. These kids in our city need much more. We've all heard the term, it takes a village, and I agree. But we are that village, and I'm here, so are these citizens behind me and Bishop James, along with countless others. But again, we need more. We need the rest of the village to get up and show out for these kids. I'm a living testament to the village. Without my community, I know I wouldn't be here today. And God, of course. We are one. Brown, black, white, green, orange, it doesn't matter. If you live here and you're in Cincinnati, we're a family. And when family needs help, you help. It's just that simple. We absolutely can change these kids' lives for the better. We ourselves can become better. We lead by example. So be the example. I say that to anyone that can hear me today. And let these kids know they're worth it. I'm tired of hearing, these aren't my kids, it's not my problem. If you live in this city, guess what? It's your problem. Okay. The bottom line is we're failing in a big way. So let's change in a big way. And I just want to say thank you for giving your time today. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, mine is going to be short. It's to the point. It's to my heart. I'm a mother and a grandmother and great. But I'm here today because I have a grandson that is lost. I haven't seen him for months. I don't know if he's still living or if someone has taken his life. But I know that if he's in those streets, he don't have his life. He has the street life. He has the drug life. He ran away from home. They found him. They brought him back home. The next day he left again. He would come through my daughter's window, to get food and, whatever else, he could get. And he don't want to go to school, and he doesn't go to school. We don't have any connection to him. So my plea to each and every one of you're all in the same position I am as a parent, a grandparent, or what have you. Let us all become that village that we all grew up with. I know I grew up with a village, where everybody cared about one another, that we can save the children, let them know that no matter what they do, it's wrong. But we can help them along with the system, to make it right. And if they can just feel that from, us as a body, each and every one of us, I think that, it'll be a turnaround for them. But right now, they, thinking that the family's against them, the system is against them, and they're even thinking that God is against them, So if you all just, reach out, put your heart, your head, and everything together, as a community and a family, it would be so everlasting, appreciated. And that's what, I'm here for, to ask, for help, not just for my grandson, because he's not the only one lost out there. For all of them that's lost out there, because we can turn them around. We can turn them around. And I thank you all for giving me this opportunity and this time, to, speak with you all, to plead with you all, and know that somewhere in your heart that, you're going to help, make this a successful, journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
At age 14, my dad passed away and my mom left. I was alone with no family. Thankfully, I was the size I am now, and always had Jesus. But being the size I am now, I fell in with some of the wrong guys, some of the wrong crowd, was muscle for them, and been on the streets firsthand, seen a lot of the violence firsthand. Had my best friend, my brother, die in my arms from being shot. Remember the last breath he took when he squeezed my hand really hard right before he died. And thankfully, I had the strength to get through these things without getting too much PTSD to where I saw substance or other things to numb the pain. I always had Jesus, and I still have him, and my path, trying to make right from the wrongs I've done. I've committed my life to helping young brothers out there, and I've done that through teaching them how to box, through teaching them how to be real warriors, like doing what's so much harder to do. It's so easy to pick up a gun and to do the wrong things. That's easy. I mean, I was a coward back then. It took strength to do the real things, or to do the right things, and to do the non-negotiables every day, do that mind, body, soul work that's necessary to break free from those chains and to move forward and to help each other. And the first thing I always teach the young brothers is, like, I am my brother's keeper. And then that way they look out for each other. Instead of talking behind your brother's back or letting them slip up, you hold them accountable. That's where we get our strength. And I mean, a few of them have even gotten my brother's keeper tattoos on them, and then I went off to college and have done things with their lives. So I know through just seeing the results that this can work. And my code, which I live by, is Jesus Christ, Sermon on the Mount. And I'm ready.
All right, for the sake of time, thank you all for listening. There are many, many more that will be coming forth before council. I just want to say to the residents, every grandparent, every mother, you know who you live with, you know the struggles that you deal with your young people. Give me a call directly. Area code 513-487-8843. We're willing to put our lives on the line to really make a difference and to save the ones that you love. It's time now to not talk about it, but be about it. So God bless you again, grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunties. If you're having trouble with your young people at home, call me directly, and I promise you, we will be there, we will be with them and give them what they need, and give it to them from people that have been there, done that. So we'll be coming back, giving updates. I'm looking forward to working with all of our committees, trying to put our heads together and making a difference. So when you see us coming, if you see folks with ski masks on, as long as you see me by them, they're not in any trouble. We just want to protect their lives, because when people come forth to say, I want to make a difference, the first thing you get tagged is as a potential snitch. So when you see them and they're masked, they're not here for trouble. They're here to help me save some lives. And that's exactly what we're going to do. 513-487-8843. God bless you. And so we are the called to action. God bless you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees. We have the Small Business and Economic Development Committee report.
Our committee report for the Small Business and Economic Development meeting from January 8th. To the Honorable Council of the City of Norwood, Ohio, we, your Small Business and Economic Development, to who was referred the Community Reinvestment Area application for Pure Beauty LLC, beg leave to submit the following report. After presentations by business owner Sylvia Brownlee, Tim Wagers, Tax Commissioner, and Catherine Fitzgerald, Vice President of Alloy Development, the committee recommends that we approve the CRA. Respectfully submitted, Chairperson Sam Bowling, Mrs. Susan Hoover, Mr. Jeff Burton, and Mrs. Emily Franzen.
Thank you. Mrs. Hoover?
I'll make a motion that we accept the report as read.
Motion by Mrs. Hoover to accept the committee report. Second by Mrs. Winterbauer. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Moving on to introductory readings of ordinances and resolutions. First item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Pure Beauty Extension Bar LLC regarding 4318 Montgomery Road and declaring an emergency. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings?
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings of the ordinance. Seconded by, I'm sorry,
I second.
seconded by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
And Mr. Brady?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. If you can please have all 3 readings of the ordinance.
Oh, I apologize. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Pure Beauty Extension Bar LLC regarding 4318 Montgomery Road and declaring an emergency. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Pure Beauty Extension Bar LLC regarding 4318 Montgomery Road and declaring an emergency. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Pure Beauty Extension Bar LLC regarding 4318 Montgomery Road and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to pass the ordinance?
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer to pass the ordinance. Mr. Braden.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Braden. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
I was just going to say, having been on the committee, excited to see this building be used for the first time in a long time, and glad to have another small business move to Norwood.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Next item is an ordinance amending Section 303.09 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Norwood, Ohio, entitled Leaving Junk and Other Vehicles on Private or Public Property Without Permission or Notification and declaring an emergency. What's your pleasure? Mrs. Hoover.
Make a motion, we suspend the rules and have all 3 readings?
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. The motion is to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings. Motion by Mrs. Hoover, seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Please have all 3 readings of the ordinance.
If you insist. Ordinance amending Section 303.09 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Norwood, Ohio, entitled Leaving Junk and Other Vehicles on Private or Public Property Without Permission or Notification and declaring an emergency. Ordinance amending Section 303.09 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Norwood, Ohio, entitled Leaving Junk and Other Vehicles on Private or Public Property Without Permission or Notification and declaring an emergency. Ordinance amending Section 303.09 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Norwood, Ohio, entitled Leaving Junk and Other Vehicles on Private or Public Property Without Permission or Notification and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mrs. Hoover.
I move we pass the ordinance?
Motion by Mrs. Hoover to pass the ordinance. Mrs. Bowling.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bowling. Any discussion? Mrs. Hoover.
I just wanted to share with those at home, this was brought forth by the police department. Lieutenant Vickers is who sent it over to us. And this is something that will be helpful for them in doing their job. So I was really excited to see. I feel like this whole city's coming together to start, tidying things up and making sure that we can all do best practices. So that's where this is coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. Motion on the floor is to pass the ordinance. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooper.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Gerton.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion passes. Next item is a resolution adopting the City of Norwood Treasurer's Statement of Investment Policy. What's your pleasure? Mrs. Franzen.
I move that we have the first reading of this ordinance.
Motion by Mrs. Franzen to have the first reading of the ordinance. Mrs. Winterbauer.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Winterbauer. Any discussion? Mrs.
I
Franzen.
just wanted to see if Mr. Bonzel had any comments or additions to this. I know we've talked about this in the past, so I figured it's about the same as it was before.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Bonzel.
So this is just a very small amendment. It's essentially accepting kind of the practices of the department's when it comes to allocating interest. Specifically, I would notice the health department. So the health department has some different grant funds and stuff where they have money in, like in the bank or in their fund that we've been investing. So essentially, they get a percentage, an equal percentage to the total amount of all of the cash that's in all of the funds. In their allocation, and then they get allocated, but our local government services folks that help us with fiscal urgency is one of that to be explicitly spelled out, so we'll find out exactly where that's allocation interest. That's the only change. It would help if we did get all the readings. I didn't put emergency clause on this. There was something that was minor change, might get 3 readings, but if not, it's totally fine as well. So.
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Franzen.
That was the next question I was going to ask. I know since this is fairly minor and we've discussed it, I'm fine with amending my motion to have all 3 readings tonight, if everyone else is.
Mrs. Winterbauer, would you amend yours second?
I'll amend to, yes, have all 3 readings.
Right, so the new motion on the floor is to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings of the ordinance, of the resolution. Any further discussion? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooper.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Gerton.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Please have all 3 readings of the resolution.
Resolution adopting the City of Norwood Treasurer's Statement of Investment Policy. Resolution adopting the City of Norwood Treasurer's Statement of Investment Policy. Resolution adopting the City of Norwood Treasurer's Statement of Investment Policy.
Thank you. Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to pass the resolution?
Correct. Motion by Mr. Braden to pass the resolution. Mrs. Hoover.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hooper.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Boland.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Gerton.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Moving on to administration reports. Mayor Schneider.
I have nothing further to report tonight.
All right. Mr. Bonzal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm also do not have a report tonight, but I did want to just express one of welcome to all the new council members and the returning ones. And I just want to thank you for quickly passing my resolution. I do promise you that I'll try to get you a little bit earlier.
Thank you. Mr. Miracle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. As you all know, January, very busy month in the auditor's office, so we've hit the ground running. We've closed the month of December and we've closed the year. I will be bringing an ordinance next council meeting for the Certificate of Estimated Resources, which is due by January 31st. Also, we're moving on with the report on accounting methods, and also we have a couple issues on the management letter, which I'm working on as well. I'm sure we'll be working on that with the Finance Committee. Then I'm working also with Mr. Jerry Smith on our website. We're going to get the auditor's website up and running. We have some dates and forms and financial information on there, and look forward to working with the Finance Committee. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would want to say congratulations to the people that are newly elected or have been elected to a new position. So, congratulations or condolences. We'll see how things go. I only have I have a report because council has later on the law director, the annual report. I'm going to ask that the clerk not read that whole thing because it's blah, 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 but just to receive and file when we get to there. But just a couple of words, a couple of things that I wanted to hit on. We're required to submit this annual report at the first regular meeting of council. The mayor doesn't have to do one at the first regular meeting of council. He gets more time to put his together. And it's really the last thing I'm thinking about at the end of December or beginning of January. But we did get something to you. Just the three big things, I think, in the last year. One is the big civil rights case, the Virgil case out of Kentucky, which had been going on for 7 years, I think. This was my second year as law director. And we won, which was, I'm very excited about that because it was a huge thing, and it's nice to see things come out the way they're supposed to. So earlier this year, I was arguing in front of the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals and filing briefs, and that's finally done. I'm very glad about that. The second big one, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, is the Crow's Nest, which is the attic sort of up above this level, up above the stage area. There's where the law department records, the old records were stored. There was a pigeon infestation. It was a toxic waste dump. And in the last couple of months, we had some experts come in and clean the place out and salvage a lot of the records. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because they were in bankers' boxes. Some of the boxes were in bad shape, but we do have a lot of records. We'll be going through that. We have a much nicer space now, thanks to our project coordinator who managed to build a much better space. So for us, that's a big thing, because we've just not been able to get into that stuff for months and months, that it's just been completely off limits. The oldest thing, and Mrs. Hoover asked about this when I mentioned it before, we don't have anything from the 20s. There is a box of water bills from the 40s, and those probably need to be destroyed because we have no use for those, really. The oldest law department stuff seems to be from the 70s, so there may be some 60s stuff. We're still going. We're starting the process of going through those and making sure we know what's up there. The other big one I didn't mention in my report is the anti-discrimination ordinance, and I just mentioned that because it's kind of a new thing for Norwood, and that was a lot of work to find a way. What's something that the city has the authority to do that can actually make a difference, send a message, and that kind of typifies the best of what a law department can do is council or citizens or the administration. Hey, can we do something along these lines? I know the feds are doing this or the state's doing that, and it's finding the path that the city has the authority to do, and it has the resources to do, and has the people that can do it. And that's one that we actually managed to get something done and replace one that is so old and out of date and unconstitutional, really, the way it was written from back in the 70s. So that was another kind of highlight, I think, of this year. The law department is a weird place as far as the law department. We have externs that come every semester. We have a new extern that comes from UC Law School. And when they come in, we sit down and meet with them, and we say, this is the weirdest law practice ever. You never know what's going to come in. I mean, it's labor law, it's contracts, it's, we have to draft an ordinance, it's criminal law, it's defending or filing a civil lawsuit against somebody, it's zoning, it's, You know, what are the inspectors going to do? What can we do to enforce some of the nuisance laws? What are some new passages? You never, ever know what's going to come in, which makes it interesting. It also makes it a challenge. And then in addition to all the things that happen, we also have to deal with what the state throws at us. That's another big time suck for me this year was the state's budget bill. They passed it. They made some changes in that. A big one was changing the way the State Department of Education works. But in Ohio, under the Ohio Constitution, all of the state legislation has to be one subject. You can only have one subject in a bill. The state budget bill this year was over 5,000 pages, and it didn't have a table of contents. And it covered things like how a city can collect delinquent taxes and who it can collect taxes from. And basically, the big fun over my summer was going through the 5,000 pages to figure out what they changed for the city. And there were things on how we advertise ordinances that have been passed. There were changes to our tax that affect our tax code. There was, this is my favorite, and clearly a state budget issue. They changed the rules for where you keep the license plates for an impounded car if you impound a car for certain things. Does it go with the car, or does it the impound? Does the police department take it? Does it go to the state? But they changed that rule. And I had to go through, and I luckily stumbled on it. So when we impound the next car like that, we'll know where the plates go. I do want to thank all the council members. Having an active council is a blessing, and for me it's kind of a curse. It's more work for us, but it makes everything better. So I want to thank you for the work you've done in the past, and the new members. I know the work you're going to do. I also want to thank Tim Gary and Kat Cornelius, because they make it possible for us to have the law department we do. They are really amazing people, and I'm lucky to have them. And if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or make up an answer anyway.
Thank you. Questions for any of the administrative officials? Yes, Ms. Royce.
Mr. Moore, I would just like to say it was very nice of you to thank the externs in your official report. As a former law student, I'm sure that means a lot to them.
And we said cops.
Mrs. Hoover.
I had a question for the mayor. I was wondering, sir, if you wanted to mention your State of the City address you'd be doing in a few weeks at the chamber?
No.
You don't want to?
I will be doing a State of the City address at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, which is on, I think, the 16th. 17th.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's why.
It'll be a little bit different than the last one.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Mrs. Hoover.
I was waiting to see if anyone else had a thing. I don't have too many, just a few. First of all, I'm wearing my Hawksworth sweatshirt to advertise the MLK blood drive that will be happening this Saturday. Really excited. It's almost full. There's just a few spots left. And if you can do red blood cells, I think there's still 5 spots for that. That's where they take it out and then put it back in. It's like super blood. It's like super blood, whatever. So that's coming up, very exciting, on Saturday. Information's on the website. There's also the MLK Day of Service, which is not just one day. We are giving you multiple opportunities to do service opportunity in Norwood. On the actual MLK Day, which is Monday, there are opportunities at Baby Bear, which is a nonprofit in Norwood working with children 5 and under and their parents and families. So they're looking for help sorting and organizing. There's Woven Oak. A Zion Church has a food pantry, and they're looking for help, just a small group, 2 to 4 people, to help organize their pantry. Norwood Together has welcome bags that they collect. I think if I moved here and got a welcome bag many moons ago, that would have been lovely. So that's a really great thing they provide. Let's see, Emily's Garden is in Hunter Park. That's weather permitting. I'm seeing someone who's got a look on their face. Emily's Garden is a community garden in Hunter Park. It's new. It's named after a Norwood resident who died of, I believe it was brain cancer, a lovely young woman. The community just sort of rallied around her. The times that I've been at the garden, it has been such a neat blend of little kids and people that lived in Norwood forever and people who just moved in around the corner, and it's just a really beautiful space. A Norwood resident is spearheading it, and it's really a magical space. So I encourage you to check it out. But on Monday, they're looking for some help spreading wood chips. That's weather permitting, because we might be getting our first snowfall finally. So those are all on that Monday. On Tuesday and Thursday, there are volunteer opportunities at New Vision Missionary Baptist Church, which has a food pantry and a grocery, more of a grocery kind of concept. So that's Tuesday and Thursday. And then Dress for Success, which is now in Norwood, that helps outfit women for getting new employment opportunities. And so they're looking for help in organizing the clothing. And those opportunities are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You can go in for a couple hours between 9 and 4. So anyone can do that. So those opportunities, you can find the links on the city website, the city Facebook page, my Facebook page. Call me. We've got flyers and signs everywhere. So if you haven't seen it, that's on you. I don't know what to tell you. So that's coming up. Really, really exciting. This is our third year for it. There's also the amazing purple banner that's hanging on Montgomery Road. Thank you to Clint Zimmerman for putting that up. We are going to have to get a new sign because I think that might be getting too heavy. So that's that. Next, recycling. That's one of the initiatives that's been coming out of the Housing, Health, and Public Safety Committee. Two things. Really great news, working with the Board of Health and the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. We now can recycle our prescription bottles, empty prescription bottles at the Board of Health. So I took in a big box I just had in my closet. Every time a prescription was finished, I ripped out the label, tossed it in the box. So now you can just take that little box or bag in your home and take it to the Board of Health. They will make sure that it's empty and then put it in the collection, and then they will go off. The hub will sanitize them, and then they will be reused. So it's sort of a low-hanging fruit, but it's really exciting because we can reuse those. So that's, lovely. The other thing, would you be so kind?
I got you.
Show and tell. Councilmember Gerton tried getting rid of my recycling bag. This is something we talked about a few weeks ago, is the new program through Hefty. You can get some free sample bags for this recycling program through Hefty. The bags are a little bit more expensive than your regular garbage bags, but you can put in a ton of single-use plastics. We're still figuring out in the Hoover household what goes, what doesn't go. I'm doing a lot of pulling things out of the garbage and recycling, but some real easy breezy things. All your takeout styrofoam stuff, straws, my Kind protein things, just the clear wrapper things, your sandwich bags, your the plastic bags that apples come in, grocery bags, all that stuff. This is 3 weeks from my house of 4 family members. And I thought we didn't have a whole lot of recycling. And this is a ton. So if everybody did a little bit of this, that would make a huge deal. So this matters not only because this is good for the universe, but this also means that this is not going in our garbage, which we pay for, the city pays for. So that's sort of a twofer. You can get some free bags on hefty.com, their website. So give it a shot, see if it's something that you're interested in. If it works for you, I actually went out and bought a whole new garbage can, so it's a thing. Lastly, we're still working to get the Ward 4 meeting. If you recall, it was on the calendar for October, that we had to reschedule it. Working with the police department to get that online. We're hoping to do it in January, but it might not be until the beginning of February. But be patient, it is still going to happen. And, sir, that is all of my old business. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, yes, Mrs. Franzen?
Yeah, I think it's probably be most appropriate here. So I didn't submit a official committee report, but I just wanted to make a note for folks that might be watching. So we had a infrastructure, parks, public spaces meeting last night. We had a great discussion about Victory Park and permitting alcohol usage in parks in general. So kind of the decision that was made is that for now, for this ordinance that I'm going to resubmit, have the law department redraft, is to put a clause in there saying that Victory Park is not a part of that, this ordinance. It only applies to the other parks. But I think we had a really great discussion about how we can best use this really beautiful park in the middle of our city. And I know the American Legion was going to get together, I think tonight or tomorrow, to talk about like what they feel would be the best use. I feel like it's a conversation worth having in the future. So just wanted to make a note about that. I would urge, just because we've talked about it quite a bit, next meeting, if people feel up to it might be good to just have all 3 readings. Sorry if I'm getting red. It's pregnancy, I'm not embarrassed. So, speaking of that, I will also not be here next meeting because finally it's time for this baby to get out of here. If I'm here in 2 weeks, it's weird. I'll be very unhappy. So, since I won't be here in 2 weeks, I figured I'd mention that this coming up. I'll be emailing the law department about making a clause to exclude Victory Park from having the ability to get permits and have alcohol usage at that particular park. Let's see, something else? Anything else? I think that's it. While I'm on maternity leave, Candace volunteered to be the chair of the Streets Committee, so if there's business there, she'll be able to take care of that. And I'd ask, if you email me, just don't expect a response for a little bit. I'm going to try to be good and not check my email, which I have problems with not checking email, but I feel compelled to. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business? Any new business? Mrs. Hoover?
I would like to schedule a housing meeting with my housing folks. And I don't have access to who's on that committee because I can't.
That is John, Mr. Braden, Ms. Royce, and Mrs. Winterbauer.
When would be good for you guys to have a housing meeting? Day or time of day that is best? I can throw out some options.
Are we looking at next week or can we do the week after? Next week's just a little busy, but.
Then let's do the week of the, could we do before the council meeting? No. I could do Wednesday, the 24th at 7:30.
I could do that.
Does that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Wednesday, the 24th at 7:30. Housing meeting, thank you. And I'd like to add to that, we're going to be putting the yard sale ordinance in there. I don't want anyone to be concerned. We are going to continue to have yard sales, but the ordinance is from 1984, and it needs some love. So we're gonna love it up a little bit. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? All right. Moving on to communications, we have the Law Director's report from Mr. Moore. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to receive and file as of read.
Thank you. Second, Mrs. Bowling. Motion is to receive and file the report as if read. Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer, second by Mrs. Bowling. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Gerton?
Yes.
Mr. Braid?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Next item is a letter from the PACE, or from Norwood Community Television regarding a PACE board appointment.
Yeah. Oh, I need to read it, sorry. If it exists. Dear Joseph F., oh my goodness, Joseph S. Skiers, I hope this letter finds you well. Congratulations on your election as Norwood's new president of council. Traditionally, the president of Norwood City Council has also had a position on the PACE Telecommunications Center Board, which oversees the operation of Norwood Community Television. In addition to a city representative, our board is comprised of a representative from the Norwood Board of Education and 3 at-large members. We convene quarterly at the TV studio in the high school. Your participation would be highly beneficial to us and our mission to serve the city throughout your term. Please consider this a formal invitation to join us in our upcoming meetings. As you are aware, should you accept, council will need to officially approve the appointment. If you need any more information or wish to discuss this further, please feel free to contact me at your convenience. Thank you for considering this request, and I look forward to the possibility of your valuable contribution to the PACE Board. Warm regards, Tyler Meyer, Executive Director of Norwood Community Television.
Thank you. Mrs. Hoover.
I'll make a motion that we receive the letter and approve the appointment.
Second, Mrs. Winterbauer.
I second.
Motion is to receive and file the letter and approve the appointment. Motion by Mrs. Hoover, seconded by Mrs. Winterbauer. Any discussion? Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I vote on this, I want to make sure that you do this. If you don't, I'd like to vote no on this. Get your approval, please.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Girton?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the next communication, the Mayor's Court fines for December of 2023.
Do I need to read this?
Just
I got it. Yep. Regarding mayor court fines, dear Mr. President and council members, enclosed, please find the report for Norwood's Mayor Court for the month of December 2023. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Victor Schneider, Mayor of the City of Norwood.
Thank you. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Motion to receive and file, second, I'm sorry.
Second? Yes.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Girton?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. We have no absent members. Moving on to adjournment. Mrs. Hoover,
I move we adjourn.
second by Mr. Girton. Call the roll, please.
I apologize, there's so much paper up here. I know. All right, Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Girton?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, ma'am.
All members present voting yes, this motion carries, and this meeting is hereby adjourned.
Thank you. 2 of these are filled out correctly.